Intelligence will also identify more than 300 well-constructed defensive positions that the insurgents have placed throughout the city, many of which are going to be interlaced with IEDs. Many of those are going to be daisy-chained IEDs. And for those of you that don't know what a daisy-chained IED is, well, first, let me just, before I explain a daisy chain, let me explain the difference in IEDs between Iraq and Afghanistan, because I think it's important for people to understand what we're really talking about here. Granted, there's exceptions to the rules on both sides of this, but generally speaking, and we know this from firsthand experience, in Afghanistan, most of the IEDs are anti-personnel IEDs, not really designed at killing, more at maiming, right? So they're aimed at knees, they're aimed at the groin. They're designed to injure whoever steps on them badly enough so that other Marines and or other soldiers and medics and corpsmen have to go treat that soldier, and then they would launch an ambush, right? While you're trying to handle all of that. The IEDs in Iraq are night and day different. The IEDs in Iraq are like 3 or 4 155 artillery shells all wired together in the back of a car and driven up to a ECP or a VCP, like a snap VCP that soldiers have put up, or Marines have put up in the city. A VCP is a vehicle checkpoint. And 4 155 artillery shells are so incredibly devastating. For instance, we had a huge IED attack happen about a quarter mile down the road from us when we were in Iraq. There was 2 went off. There was a first. I'll never forget this either, because I was on radio. We were on QRF. Both of us were on QRF, and I was on radio watch, and I was kind of pissed because one of the guy I had already stood my hour of radio watch. The guy that was supposed to stand after me was playing horseshoes with the sergeants, and he had talked his way into getting, continuing playing and skipping his watch. So Sergeant R came over and was like, "Hey man, you're gonna stand his watch, but I'll make it up to you later." I was like, "This is garbage. I'm pissed."
But you will.
But I did it regardless. Yeah, I did it regardless, because that he said I was gonna do it. So there's really no arguing that. And I had just sat down from that talk, and all of a sudden I hear this boom. I mean, it is a loud boom, and I look up and I see the smoke, and I don't even think to I'm brand new. Like, we're brand new. We've never been in combat before, right? So you learn. You've trained for years at this point, but it's different when you get into it for the first time. I just know that I have to go tell you guys, right? Like it's time to go. I don't know how we're gonna go. I don't know what we're gonna do when we get out there, but it is time to go right now. And I start running back towards the hooches, and as soon as I turn the corner, I hear another boom that is astronomically louder. Right, and I can feel the shock. We're a quarter mile away from that ECP, and I can feel a shock wave.
Yeah.
Right, and I look back, and there's this big black mushroom cloud-looking thing coming up from the ECP. Well, what had happened to the first IED that went off was a suicide vest, and in this checkpoint, this insurgent, suicide bomber walked up to where these 2 Marines were manning a bats and hide system. Bats and hide system is they scan the retina, take your fingerprints. And if you had been put into the system before as a possible insurgent, they'd wrap you up. If you went through the system and your retina scan and your fingerprint didn't hit on anything, then you were good to pass into the city of Ramadi. He walked up to this thing, walked through a metal detector. The metal detector started dinging, and as soon as he got within the distance from me to you, a few feet away, clacked that S-vest off.
Yep.
The second bomb that went off was the guy that was driving the car he rode there in, and in the back of that car was 4 155 artillery shells. I say this entire story just to get to this point, to prove the point of how devastating these things are. When we arrived at that ECP, there's like 2 vehicle lanes and then a third lane where foot traffic would walk through. So the idea was the cars would come up, the driver would stay in the car, any of the passengers would get out and go through and do the bats and hides system on foot, right? They'd walk through that metal detector, they'd get scanned, and then they could meet their car on the other side of this checkpoint, hop in, and continue on into Ramadi. Iraqi policemen were in charge of checking the vehicles as they came through the vehicle lanes. These vehicle lanes are separated by T-wall barriers, and a T-wall barrier is a humongous. Basically, it's a humongous Jersey barrier. It looks like an upside down T, big concrete structure. It's probably 2 feet thick. Wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah.
The top
More
part of
than-
it's 2 feet thick. The bottom part
It's
might be
super
4 or
thick,
5
yeah.
feet thick, but the top, the main part of the wall is probably 2 feet thick, and it has rebar on the inside of it, right? So it's a very well reinforced concrete structure. When we pulled up to that explosion, I was up in a turret. You were up in a turret as well.
Yes.
And I'll never forget, dude. We pulled up, and we're looking at it the whole way. Smoke is billowing up, and as we get up, the car door, the driver's car door, had blown through the T-wall barrier. Smoke was billowing through this hole in the T-wall barrier. There's blood all over the inside of the door where it's laying on the other side. That is how it blew a car door through a rebar reinforced concrete barrier that is 2 feet thick. The blast is unbelievable, and not to mention the devastation it caused to everybody within the vicinity. I mean, that was a crazy day. That was one of the crazier things I've ever seen, actually.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. But the IEDs in Iraq, when we talk about IEDs in this episode, we're not talking about like a little anti-personnel mine. We're talking about bombs that will level an entire platoon, right? They're unbelievably big. Daisy-chained IEDs take it a step further. Daisy-chained IEDs would be that IED with 4 155 artillery shells connected to 3 or 4 more the same size, all connected with det cord, so that when one goes off, they all go off, and they'd be spread over a bigger distance. So ideally, if they allow a platoon or a squad to walk past the first few and get to the last one, when they blow it up, the whole squad will be hit by various IEDs. The secondary and tertiary IED system they had was that's what we got trained on. I remember thinking, dude, how did you take this? Because I remember getting to the fleet and starting to really learn about how to patrol and look for IEDs and our SOPs on how to handle IEDs. And I was very nervous. On having to go over there and finagle my way through an IED experience, because the way these guys were describing it, most of them are going to be daisy chained. They're going to have secondary, tertiary IEDs set up. They're going to be freaking huge, and they're going to be hidden very well.
Yeah.
And you have to be able, beyond looking for enemy combatants and snipers and RPGs and machine gun positions, you're also looking for little tiny wires that might give away something, or a piece of trash that's out of place.
Yeah, there's like our senior Marines, it would be certain little things just in not only in a training event or on an IED lane or something. It would just be like guys that have gone before us, and they would just in conversation say, well, when you go through there, you can't wear yellow sunglasses. You got to have clear eyes or dark sunglasses, because the glasses that are, say, yellow, you don't see a certain color wire, and that's what they would see. Or you'd hear another story from someone that said, because obviously the enemy has been watching how we respond to these IEDs and what maneuvers we take to take care of that situation. Now, here's one example. Going off of these daisy-chained IEDs, they have imagine an IED that's not hidden. It's out in the street ahead of you. So you may not notice the hidden one because your eyes go right to that one. So you stop. Hey, there's an IED up ahead. It's just a 155 laying out in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
What you don't focus on is the secondary or tertiary right next to you or under you
where
or
it's
around
like
you.
3 or 4 155s all wired together.
Right. So by the time you stop, they know what you're going to do. And these are the things that were mentioned in training or casual conversations, and it would all stick with you in your head, and you would think, well, man, by the time I get there, these are all the things I'm going to be looking for. So you're looking around like crazy. You're always looking. Everybody's looking. The drivers, the gunners.
It gets a little overwhelming, because you're thinking, okay, I got to look for this. I got to look for that. My head's got to be on a swivel. I got to be doing this, that, and the other. I mean, dude, a lot of people in the military will make fun of infantry guys. Like that's where the dumb guys end up. To be honest with you, and this is not just to fluff up our own egos here or anything, infantry is one of the hardest jobs in the military, especially in today's military.
Yeah.
Because you have to be an expert. First off, you have to be an expert in so many different things. And secondly, your mind is processing all of that stuff continuously. Because the enemy wants to kill you, right? Like that is they're trying as hard as they can to kill you. It's not like, oh, we're just gonna go stick this bomb out there and hope it works.
Yeah.
You know,